Welcome back, movie fans, to another episode of Hollow Victories, where even if you go the distance, you won't get very far. I am your host, Matt Presents, joined as always by my expendable co-host.
I fucking forgot to come up with a name. I think this might be the first time I've ever done that. I'm just Makal today, unfortunately. Sorry, no joke today, kids. I do think you may have used that word to describe me before, though. I feel like I remember that one.
Expendable?
Yeah, didn't you?
Maybe. I don't know. It makes sense here.
Yeah, it does.
So today we have the matchup of movies from 1985 that are sequels to Sylvester Stallone's two biggest franchises, Rocky and Rambo. Both generally considered to be like kinda goofy sequels, both pretty bluntly Cold War era propaganda, although the way they go about their propaganda is very different in both cases, so I think it's going to be interesting to kind of see how each of them does that. But it's Rocky IV versus Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Yeah, one took a decent bit longer to get silly than the other one. At least that's my understanding. I don't know about Rocky 2 and 3. I didn't watch Rocky 2 and 3. I didn't watch Rambo 3 or 4, you know. I watched the firsts and then the Hollow Victories one.
Rocky 2 is fine. It's like fairly dramatic. It's a lot closer to the first one. 3 is where things start to kind of go off the rails, but like 3 is also more interesting than 2, I think. That's the one where he fights Mr. T.
And then 4 is the one with the robot.
Yeah, and then 4 we get the robot. And then I completely forget what happens in 5. Like, who even cares about that one? And then he fights his son.
I actually always thought it was like weird that there was a... I always forget that there's a Rocky 5.
And a Rocky 6, which is just called Rocky Balboa.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the Creed movies, which are good. Well, the first 2 are. I've never seen the third one.
Right. I haven't seen those, but I've heard good things about them. Honest to God, I had such little knowledge of Rocky that I didn't know that those were, like, tied to Rocky. But I also didn't know much about either franchise. I just knew that they were both pretty well liked. So obviously now, just after watching the first one, that makes sense. I will also say, as someone who's only just recently saw Rocky and First Blood for the first time, I really enjoyed Rocky. There's going to be a whole lot of the ring on it, but I'm a newcomer to these films. I enjoyed Rocky a lot. I loved First Blood. I thought that was a really well done movie. I thought it had something to say. I thought it was interesting throughout. It could be very entertaining, but it also did have some level of subtleness to it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Do we want to get into this first movie?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Rambo First Blood Part 2. I will rant about the title in a minute.
I know.
We'll get there. So, after the Vietnam War, in the real world, not in the movie, the Nixon administration started this conspiracy that there were still, American POWs trapped in Vietnam, which there's never really been any good evidence of, but it was kind of convenient for them, because, it makes the death total look less bad, because it's some of them are still alive, they're just prisoners of war, and also it gives them an excuse to, start the Vietnam War up again, something they clearly wanted to do a lot, since they, lost Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rambo First Blood Part 2 takes these myths as the basis of its story. Rambo is hired by the U.S. government to go back into the areas where he was kept as a prisoner of war during Vietnam, take some pictures, prove that there are no prisoners of war out there, and make everything look nice and clean. Unfortunately, Rambo finds prisoners of war out there, and he's trying to free them, and it's a huge problem for the people back at base camp. So they end up abandoning Rambo out there to fend for himself in this Vietnam War camp. Michael, what did you think of Rambo First Blood Part 2?
In terms of how it's made, it's one of the most well-made things I think we've covered on the show. This one's an example of something that was put together very nicely.
Sure.
And it does have a lot of scenes that are interesting to watch and like have good action to them. I have to say though, I'm kind of a big pet peeve of mine is like a mini series becoming a show of multiple seasons, or a movie that had a concrete ending continue and find in some sort of way like, oh wait, that's actually not the end of the story. We have to do this now. And it's like some movies I think lend themselves so well to a sequel, and I think technically I think that could be like a real challenge for someone to take a movie that doesn't need a sequel and make a good sequel, because it has been done before. But I just feel like I just think this movie exists and kind of destroys what the first movie's message was. It destroys what like the point of that first film was. Even though there are similar themes in this one, although it's a little bit sillier here, I just feel like the ending of First Blood meant something, you know? Like it was a tragic ending, but that's how it had to end. And it was a very...
I believe in the book First Blood ends with Rambo either killing himself or getting killed.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not saying that's how the movie should have ended. I kind of like how the movie did end.
Yeah, me too.
But it certainly would have saved them from Rambo becoming this complete other thing. Because this is the cultural idea of Rambo.
It is.
Right? This is when people talk about Rambo, they mean this movie.
100%.
And, you know, Rambo 3.
I think there's like more references to Rambo 2, like visually. Like there's like, I've seen like shots from Rambo in those fucking paintball community episodes, you know? Like that's definitely the more influential movie. And when you showed me First Blood, I had no real knowledge of the series other than what other people have said about it. And I fully expected Rambo 2 to be the movie I was watching that night. Like Rambo 2 was everything I expected it to be. Rambo 1, which, yeah, you should talk about that title in a minute, was just like, yeah, it completely took me off guard. So did Rocky for, honestly, it was at least closer to what I thought it was going to be. Where First Blood, I wasn't expecting a movie like that at all. But I just, like I said, I don't think Rambo 2 is awful. I just think that it just doesn't need to. I feel like they traded a great like clean movie with a good message at the end and, you know, interesting way of looking at the war. It replaced that for franchise movies, and you know what happens when those get made. So it just, I don't know, I think it's kind of a bummer.
This is definitely more of a franchise movie than First Blood.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like quintessential meathead action. This is like the idea of an 80s action movie. This is like what people think of when they think of 80s action is a movie exactly like this.
Yeah, and I think that like, I said before that there are some themes carried over from the first movie. Really, the big one is just like being let down by your own country. But in the first movie, I felt like they had a very, you know, especially just with like the back and forth between like the colonel and the sheriff. You know, it was two people. You know, it was him trying to talk this person out of his own obsession, out of his own, like, he needs to be the one who kills Rambo himself. He needs to be the one who deals with this. I think that there's a lot of realism to a person like that. I think there's a lot of realism in the conversations they have. Even if it is, like, you know, like, I said it could be subtle. It also could be, I agree with you, because I think you were the one that says it wasn't very subtle in some areas, and I agree because, you know, you really are just having these conversations happen. But I felt like it was... it felt a lot more believable in the first one, where in this second one, it's like a fucking supervillain. It's like a fucking supervillain rant, you know, like it just doesn't, and it's kind of an entertaining scene to watch, though. It is kind of like, you know, just watching those two get at it, you know, the fight they have, but it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of dumb. That's really all I can say is it's kind of dumb, and the first one was definitely not that.
It also feels like these two movies almost come down on opposite sides of the Vietnam War, where, like, the first one was like, this was an awful experience that has, like, ruined this man and killed everyone he was close to. The second one is like, oh, yeah, we failed the Vietnam soldiers. They could have won, but the spineless politicians back home, they screwed us over, and we could have won Vietnam. Like, one of the lines that always sticks with me is like at the very beginning when Rambo's like he's like, oh, you're going back into Vietnam, and Rambo's like, can we win this time?
It feels so bizarre because I mean it really does feel like the whole point of the first movie is there was no winners, because there was no winners in that story either. It was just pain and suffering for everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, it I don't know, maybe the second movie is kind of like celebrating things that the first movie didn't celebrate. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, it's in terms of just like a dumb, fun action movie, I can see why people would watch this and it would leave a bigger impact on them. But I don't think that I think most of that's just in terms of the actual filmmaking and the way, like, the action's pretty well done in the movie. There wasn't a completely effortless and careless project. It's just, in terms of a follow-up to First Blood, I think it's pretty awful.
Like, First Blood, I think, is a much more... it has action-y stuff in it, but it's a much more dramatic film, where this is just a straight-up action movie. This is, like, full-on action, full-on running into the jungle and killing dudes.
That's a pretty strong parallel to Rocky IV, actually, where Rocky 1 gives you so much more time with the character, where Rocky IV, it loves those montages, and then even treats the boxing fight like it's a montage. Like, that movie wants to constantly have action. If there's a conversation scene, talking robot's gonna be there. Like, it just feels like it wants to. It feels like entertainment is the number one intention of these two films, and entertainment is obviously a good thing to focus on when making a movie. But I mean, people watch movies for more than just that. Obviously, I mean, I don't have to tell anyone that. Everybody knows that. There is some like meaningful stuff in those first movies, and for both of these, and yeah, Rambo 2 just doesn't get there.
But it is kind of a fun action movie. Like, if you just want to see Stallone blow dudes away, here you go.
Yeah, and for that I cannot say it is terrible.
Yeah, like, if it was its own thing, I think I would dislike it less. Mm-hmm. It maybe would have reviewed a little better if it was its own thing. I mean, this exact same setup of, like, oh, we gotta go into, like, Vietnam and rescue the POWs that are still in there, is also the plot to a Chuck Norris film called Missing in Action. And I'm not gonna say it's a better movie, because it's not. This is a better movie than that. It's just a better made movie. But, like, I have less hang-ups about Missing in Action, because it's not kind of failing to follow up another thing. Although the weird thing about that movie is that it was actually, they made a movie and its sequel back to back, and then they were like, okay, the sequel's clearly better, so we're releasing that one first. And that became the first movie, and the original movie became the sequel.
That's funny. Yeah, I've never heard that story before. That's kind of amazing.
Do we want to talk about who's in this?
Yeah. We've got someone who's already in the running now, just because he was in these two in a row. Oh, wasn't he in something else actually? Sylvester Stallone? Or is this his first? I think this is our first.
I believe this is Stallone's first appearance, and yeah, it's a twofer for him. So
yep,
he's in the special league of people who've gotten their own Hollow Victories episode.
Yeah, him, Rob Schneider,
and Adam Sandler.
No, oh yeah, Adam Sandler too. Of course, it'd be Adam Sandler and Rob Schneider. All right, welcome, Sylvester Stallone. Welcome to the club. You've probably done something with Sandler.
Probably.
It'd be small. It'd be small, but
he was in that Zookeeper movie. He was like the tiger, and Sandler was the monkey, and Kevin James was the zookeeper. Joe Rogan was in that movie? What the fuck? I just clicked on the movie, and it's like, Joe Rogan. I'm like, excuse me? Okay. Now, Stallone is definitely on watch to come back, too. Like, he could easily return. We do have one returning actor, Charles Napier, who's the, corrupt U.S. general in this movie. And he also plays someone in the military in Steel. He is another army major in Steel. like weirdly the same character. Marshall Murdoch in this film, Colonel something in Steel.
There we go. A lot of these are people I'm not super familiar with. Julia Nixon.
Yeah, Julia Nixon plays this, like, girl Rambo is with most of the movie, and it's weird because it's like she's almost a love interest, but then she just never shows up again in the series. And it's like, well, maybe she wasn't actually, because it's not like they ever really had much of a moment together.
Just before she dies. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of felt like they don't have anything wrong with the performance, but it kind of just... I wasn't surprised when they killed her. I was just like, that kind of feels like what your purpose is to be a character that we're supposed to feel sad when dies, but I didn't really get much from you. I didn't really get much from most of these characters, though, so...
Yeah, I don't know, she's like one of the more important characters to the film. Like, who else even is there? There's the Colonel Troutman from the first movie.
Yeah. Not a bad performance in this one necessarily, but I think his lines get sillier. Like I said, you have kind of an almost like super villain monologue. Now he's the one, speaking out against that guy, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's the character from the first movie again in this new weirder situation.
Yeah. Is there anyone else you want to mention specifically? Because I'm kind of... Like, I recognize these faces for some of them, but...
One of the like, Vietnamese soldiers, like, one of the head Vietnamese soldiers was in Batman Forever.
Oh, hey.
George Chung.
Alright, well, welcome back.
But no, I don't. The important character in this film is Rambo. It's Rambo's story.
And the performance is not bad in this one. It's like, he's a very quiet character in both movies. But I, take his final words of the first movie and his final words of the second movie, I fully was able to take him seriously in that first movie. It's a very soul-crushing and sad scene. And then his final scene in this, it's just kind of some dramatic words to say before he walks off, And I don't know, it's just... there's not really anything wrong with the performance. It's just a very silly script that I'm having a harder time taking seriously, so...
Actually, that's something worth mentioning. This film was written by, or has a writing credit from, James Cameron?
Yeah, really?
James Cameron wrote for the film. Stallone also has a writing credit, and if I recall, James Cameron has said he wrote the story and Stallone wrote the politics.
Interesting. Normally when I hear someone say that, I'm expecting, the word, oh, he did, more of, the dialogue, and nope, he wrote the politics. What does that mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, hey, we should get back into the Vietnam War and also Russia's terrible type of movie. Alright, let's address the titles. Because the title of this film is Rambo First Blood Part 2. The first film is just First Blood.
Yeah.
That is the full title. First Blood. Then we get Rambo First Blood Part 2. Then the third one is just Rambo 3. Then the fourth one is just called Rambo. It's like they realized they had never called a film Rambo, so they're just like, okay, fourth film, it's Rambo now.
Guys are fucking stupid.
No, it's like the dumbest 3 title run in a row. And then the fifth one is Rambo Last Blood, which is top tier title. You knocked it out of the park with that one. Last Blood, perfect. The only thing that movie does better than the sequels. I'm happy they finally made Rambo Last Blood because it gives me an answer to the question, what's the worst Rambo movie? Because this one I think is dumber than 3 and 4, but I also think it's more entertaining than 3 and 4. 4 is just boring. So I'm like... Okay, which is worse, the dumb movie or the boring movie? And then Last Blood is like, hey, what if I was dumb and boring? And it's like, oh, okay, there we go. Worst Rambo movie, Last Blood. Rambo 3 is basically just more of this.
Okay, yeah, I was looking at, some stuff about this, and, I do find it funny that Rambo 2 is a film that was nominated for a Razzie and an Academy Award, which has happened, I believe has happened before. Now, the Razzie Award, it was nominated for, fucking 8 of them, and it won 5 of them. And the Academy Award is Best Sound Editing, which, sure, I didn't hear anything wrong with the sound. So, that one was only nominated, though. It didn't win.
Oh god, this won Worst Picture. I got to admit, I think like this to some extent has become like the defining entry in the Rambo series. So I think it's looked back upon a little more fondly.
I didn't know people thought it was a bad movie, but I didn't know a lot about it.
There was definitely critical pushback to it at the time. I think because it looms so large in the cultural conscience now, it kind of gets away with it a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I like initially watched this film like because of the official Razzie movie guide, which I was like super into in high school. So and that's why I didn't feel bad about like putting it on this show, because I'm like, oh yeah, well, I mean, if the Razzies didn't like it, that's good enough for me. I think they were a little hard on it, but like worst picture of 85, no way.
Oh, I'm sure not. Like, it's funny, like, looking at it, because it's like, I really could imagine a lot of people finally checking out the Rambo series and really liking this one more because it's what they're getting, what they actually thought they signed up for with this one. Because you hear all these things about Rambo for so many years. Now, I'm someone who watched that first movie and got something out of it, but because I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I wasn't, like, super excited to watch these. Not that I wasn't, like, not that I was, like, doubting that they were, like, at least the first one was good, but I wasn't, like, too interested. I probably wouldn't have done it anytime soon without this show as an excuse. But I really got into it. I really, like, got into it was, like, what it was about. But if I went into it really wanting to watch what Rambo 2 is, I could kind of imagine that affecting someone's experience greatly.
Sure.
And then they watch this one, and then they get what they thought they were going to get. I guess that's why it's good to let yourself be surprised by things, though.
I mean, I think this movie set itself up for some good parodies. You got that scene in UHF. That's, like, probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. Where Weird Al is Rambo. And also you got Hot Shots Part 2, which, is somehow more popular than the first Hot Shots, I think. Hot Shots is like a Top Gun parody, but then Hot Shots Part 2, they were like, nah, it's a Rambo parody now. The first Hot Shots, not the second one. The first Hot Shots has Charlie Sheen and John Cryer in it before 2.5 Men. So it's like, oh, the 2.5 Men guys are in this Top Gun parody. Hot Shots Part 2 is the funnier one.
I never seen. I don't even know. I've definitely heard of them. Never seen them. Maybe I'll have to check those out. 2.5 Men was a bad show. Anyways.
I am not disagreeing with you.
I tried with fucking 2.5 Men. I even fucking tried the Ashton Kutcher season. No, fuck that. Fuck that show. Anyway.
I've not watched that much of it.
It's not
Never
good.
Interested me at all.
It's not good.
Do you want to talk about Rocky 4?
Yeah, sure. Rocky 4 released November 27th, what the fuck? 27th, 1985. In the USA, I never really specify. I'm always talking about the US release date for these. Directed by Sylvester Stallone himself. Tells a more interesting version of the Rocky story, where, you know, we've already brought up, like, the talking robot. But then there's the Russian who doesn't speak, so he's, like, the opposite of the talking robot. He maybe says, like, 1 or 2 words in the entire movie. But there's this Russian boxer who goes up against Apollo Creed, and, you know, there's definitely some shady business with him. You know, we learn later down the line he's definitely a steroids user. They're definitely not playing by the rules. But ultimately, you just know that this guy is a bad guy, and you want him to go down. Especially after he kills Apollo Creed in the ring, and Rocky feeling a lot of guilt for this. Maybe guilt isn't really full yet. It's just, you know, he's more determined than ever now to take this guy on himself, because he lost a dear friend of his. And from there on, like, you kind of just watch a bunch of training and then a boxing match. I don't think that this movie has much of a story. It has a pretty simple story. Maybe I shouldn't say it doesn't have much. It doesn't have a very unique story. It really is just, here's the threat, here's the training to deal with the threat, here's him defeating the threat. That's it. It's a very, very basic story. And a lot of it becomes pretty stagnant early on, because I feel like halfway through the movie, we really are just watching train, fight. That's it. And that's like half of the movie, where Rocky 1... there's a lot more build up to this fight. There's a lot more character, a lot more of a character study being done here. But I digress. Matt, what did you think of Rocky 4?
I mean, Rocky 4, it's so on the nose, but I don't know, it's very meat and potatoes Rocky. It's kind of everything you expect from a Rocky movie and not much more. It does have the kind of Cold War angle to it, which distinguishes it from previous Rocky movies, although maybe not even that much. Like, America was a big part of the first movie, so, like, transitioning to sort of, like, Cold War propaganda in the 80s makes sense for this series. But, I mean, it is just, like, training, boxing match, training, boxing match,
Yeah.
training. I'll give it credit, it went by pretty quick. For as much of it as is dedicated to, like, training montages. Like, you definitely could have, like, done with less training montage, but then it's, like, an hour and a half, and it goes by in a snap, and you're like, alright, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just kind of fun. It's just kind of silly fun.
I agree. I can't even be as mad at this one as I can with Rambo 2, because I do think Rocky has, like, a good, I think Rocky is, the first Rocky is a way better movie than this, but I also feel like it kind of just, it leaves itself more open for different fights to happen, so if they just want to make a Rocky movie where, it's just another fight. The most offensive thing this movie probably does for, like, a fan of the series is it kills off a major character, and it does it in a movie that isn't on the same level as the other ones. So maybe it's not necessarily the issue that they kill off this beloved character, they just did it in fucking Rocky 4. That's the issue.
Yeah.
And, because it is weird to throw something with that much weight to it into this one, when it really does feel like this is trying to be a sillier movie. And it's for more than just the talking robot. Like, when he goes into training when he goes, to that cabin to train, why is Polly with him? It's because they wanted a goofy character there to make you laugh a little bit more. There's no practical reason for fucking Polly to go with him. Why is he even in these movies anymore?
It's weird that they're using Paulie as this, like, weird comic relief character, but they barely give him any dialogue. Like, he will have, like, one very brief scene of, like, whoa, what are we doing in this place? Whoa, there's no TV and no beer, whoa!
I want to have sex with the robot.
Paulie was the first guy with an AI girlfriend.
He was.
And given how pathetic he is, that checks out.
That's like the worst case scenario version of her. I don't know. I get what I was saying though is I don't think it's like, I think Rambo 2 is a movie that, like, I guess takes itself a bit more seriously, and, like, I don't know, it's weird. Like I said, tonally these movies are weird too, though, because, like, again, like, Rocky 4 is trying to be really dramatic, and then it does stuff that goes against that. Like, the movie, like, I don't know, why are you doing silly shit like this in the same movie where you killed off Apollo Creed? But I mean, I don't know, you can definitely balance these things, but would you agree? I haven't seen 2 or 3, but would you say 4 is definitely the silliest one?
4 is definitely the silliest one of the entire franchise. I will say, like, Rambo, like, I mean, the difference between First Blood and First Blood Part 2, I think, is probably greater than the difference between Rocky and Rocky 4. And Rocky had, like, 2 other movies of, like, kind of getting us to Rocky 4. I think Rocky 3 is, like, a little bit goofy. Like, it makes complete sense that after Rocky 3, we got Rocky 4. Right, that's the only place you can go from there.
Yeah.
As far as killing off Apollo Creed in this movie, like, I get what you're saying. I get that it's, like, kind of a dramatic death for such a goofy movie, but I just finished watching Creed 2, and, like, they do such a good job with that in Creed 2. Creed 2 is, like, the best possible sequel Rocky 4 could get, because Creed 2 builds on what Rocky 4 did. Ivan Drago is back in America with his son. He's trained his son his whole life to, like, fight Apollo Creed's son, but they were waiting until Adonis Creed, he was the world champion. He was the world heavyweight champion. And then they swoop in and they're like, come on, Creed versus Drago. Just like in the 80s, man. And they do so good with it. It's such a...
cool.
I might want to do like an Out of the Ring on it at some point in the future, because it is such a good follow-up to Rocky IV. A movie that does not deserve a follow-up this good.
I think that could be an interesting thing to kind of explore with Out of the Ring too. Is just like, is there any movies out there that helped redeem another movie's mistakes? You know, because I've seen instances of that happen before. That could be that is a cool idea. I think that I don't know. That's why this one, because I told you before we hit record today that I feel like this is like the hardest time I've had picking a winner, because I think that Rocky IV as a whole does not seem like it is a better movie than Rambo First Blood Part 2. It feels like a really watered down version of it watered down in some areas, but then it's trying to be more intense in others, with like, again, like the part that should be more of like the icing on the cake rather than the whole movie, probably. But Rambo 2 just feels like a betrayal to me. Like, I feel like it's taken that first movie and it like alters it way too much. But if I have to like point at one of them and say which one probably had more thought and effort put into it, I'm gonna say Rambo 2. So I'm mixed. I'm very mixed with this one.
I don't know, I feel like this happens to us all the time. Like, we'll watch the two movies and then it's like, geez, which one of these is better? I feel like I have a difficult time deciding a lot on this show, and this is pretty standard. Oh boy, I don't know which way I'm gonna go with this one.
Maybe just lately it's been easier, and that's why I'm saying that.
Do we want to talk about who's in
we should.
First Blood? Alright, I know Rocky IV.
We should. We do have return in how do you say her name? Talia Shire?
Talia Shire, sure.
Because she was in Godfather Part 3, and now she's back.
Yeah,
for
she
Rocky
was Connie. She was in the first two Godfather movies, and then she was in the original Rocky. I mean, she's in like all of the Rockies up to like Balboa. And this one as well.
Has Carl Weathers been on here yet?
He has.
8 Crazy Nights.
He was in 8 Crazy Nights as one of like the advertisements. He's the GNC guy. What a weird two role, like Apollo Creed and the GNC guy.
Which one is the GNC guy again? Oh my god, that was him? That's the guy who says, "Would you look at her because?" And then it's like, that doesn't sound like Carl Weathers. All right, he did a good voice. There is no GNC guy, by the way. That's like, I'm looking at I tried to look up. You only get 8 Crazy Night images for him, so this is like a mascot they created for that movie.
Yeah, he's kind of just the product come to life.
Yeah.
Carl Weathers is like fun in this movie.
Yeah,
it is like I think the Rocky series has always been kind of critical of like his showmanship, and so in this one you get like his ultimate grand American display with James Brown out there singing "Living in America." And,
yeah,
and that's his ultimate downfall. He's too much showmanship. He went too hard,
too far with that. Oh, I think he's fine. Yeah,
Dolph Lundgren. I love Dolph Lundgren in this movie. Honestly,
it's kind of funny just because I don't like. There's not much to say. I feel because but it's kind of funny. He doesn't say anything in the movie.
I think he's perfect casting because he's just so big and imposing, and like what little dialogue he gives them, he gives it so good. I fucking love. I must break you. That's so good. And he's really good in Creed 2. Like, he's like half the reason to watch Creed 2. He's he's giving the performance of his life in that movie. I like Dolph Lundgren. He is kind of a goofy actor in most stuff. I like his Punisher movie. I think it's my favorite Punisher movie. He did a Punisher movie in 1989. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies, frankly.
All right. I'll have to check it out sometime.
It is just him like killing people for an hour and a half. Like, there's so little going on in that movie. It is just him like shooting motherfuckers up. But I like when I first watched it, I compared it to like John Wick. It's like, nah, he's just killing people like John Wick does.
We have Burt Young as Paulie, and I looked him up to see if he was ever in Hall of Victories stuff. He hasn't been, but he was in Going Overboard, so he got a Sandler movie in, so it's always possible.
Brigitte Nielsen as Dolph Lundgren's wife, who kind of ties back to the first episode when I incidentally said that Sharon Stone married Sylvester Stallone, which is not true. I think I was mistaking her with Bridget Nielsen, who was married to Sylvester Stallone.
Hey.
So, he just, like... Were they married at this point? They got married the same year this movie came out, so...
Okay.
Yeah, he just put his wife in the movie as Ivan Drago's wife.
Was this a cuckolding thing?
No, I don't think so.
For a film. I'm looking at everybody's filmography today, just seeing if any one of these guys appeared in like an obscure thing we've watched.
One funny connection, minor spoilers for Creed 2, except it's really obvious this is gonna happen from like the very beginning of Creed 2. Rocky reconnects with like his son, who is the one he fought in Rocky Balboa, and it turns out the guy who played him was Chad in That's My Boy.
Oh, hey.
There's some like other Hollow Victories actors in this franchise that aren't in this particular installment, but are in the Rocky franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Man, do you think we'll ever see Mr. T on this show? He wasn't actually in a lot of movies. He's mostly known for the A-Team. We could see a Mr. T movie. It could happen. He was in the live-action Inspector Gadget.
He was in not another teen movie. Honestly, not another teen movie. Like, that'd be probably...
some potential.
Yeah, I don't know. It just comes when it comes to those movies, I feel like that one wouldn't be a first pick.
I don't... Like, it would be so easy to do, like, epic movie versus disaster movie or something, but I don't want to watch those movies. It'd be an easy matchup, but, like, no, I don't want to watch them.
Yeah, I don't.
Sorry.
I'm not gonna complain if you don't pick them.
I'd much rather watch First Blood Part 2 and Rocky 4. Those are some fun movies.
Yeah.
I'll give you my favorite fun fact about Rocky 4. This is one of my favorite movie facts, actually. Sylvester Stallone is... Like when he does the Rocky movies, he insists on like exchanging a few real blows with the guy he's fighting just to like kind of get an idea of how actually fighting them would feel. So he let Dolph Lundgren punch him like in the stomach, and it broke his ribs so bad that his insurance company thought he was in a car accident. And they were like, no, we don't cover car accidents. That's your car insurance's job. And he's like, no, I got this fighting him. He brought Dolph Lundgren into court and is like, look at this guy. He is the car.
And then they're like, you acknowledge that he's a car. We can't help you.
Oh, he was not. Why was Dolph Lundgren never in the Cars movies? He would have been perfect for that.
Yeah, there you go.
There is Stallone tells a story of visiting Dolph Lundgren on the set of, I think it was Masters of the Universe, his He-Man movie, the movie where Dolph Lundgren plays He-Man. That's on my list of things I would like to do on Hollow Victories, but I don't have a matchup for. It feels like it shouldn't be that hard to find, like, an action figure movie like that, but... I don't know.
Right.
There's a lot of Hollow Victories potential in the Masters of the Universe movie. But there's a story Stallone tells of, like, showing up on set and seeing that, like, they had cast Dolph Lundgren as the star, and he's like, you gave that guy lines?
You know it's a point of this movie that I haven't brought up yet?
Go ahead.
Very questionable editing in certain scenes, and I don't even know if I want to, like... It doesn't feel like any specific editor's fault. It feels like what they wanted for the movie, and it got in the way of things. Because it's like, that final boxing match is very flashy. Like, we are not staying on a single shot for more than 3 seconds. It is, like, close-ups. It is hiding a lot. Where I'm not going to act like the boxing match in Rocky 1 is, like, perfect. Like, that they don't cut it all, or they just... I'm not even saying that they need to do that. I just want one long take to make it feel real, because even real boxing doesn't do that on TV. They cut to different angles. But I feel like the first one really did a good job selling a real fight, and that you're watching in real time. Where Rocky 4, it's like the boxing match itself is a fucking montage.
I mean, they do a montage in the first movie, since they go through, like, all 18 rounds. or however
Right,
many.
but they let it play out a little bit in the first movie.
They let the first round or two play out all the way.
And Rocky 4 wasn't interested in doing that.
Yeah, it's very quick. It's a very fast-paced movie. It is worth acknowledging, we neglected to acknowledge that Godfather 3 had a pretty substantial recut from the director. So we're going to mention now that Rocky 4 has a pretty substantial recut from the director. I know at the very least it cuts out the robot. The robot is now gone from the movie. And mostly what I've heard is that it takes Ivan Drago more seriously as, like, sort of a way to, like, tie... Because it came out around the time Creed 2 came out, so he was kind of, like, trying to give it the more dramatic tone of Creed 2.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't say how different it is, but I think I'd probably prefer the original. The original just seems more fun.
Right.
I do think it is worth talking about, examining how this one does the Cold War propaganda versus how Rambo First Blood Part 2 does it. Because this is a little easier to swallow. It's sort of the most apolitical propaganda you could make. It's just kind of like, oh, my guy's so good at boxing and he's gonna beat up your guy. Right, like you could swap these two, make Rocky the Russian and Ivan the American, and it's perfect Soviet propaganda. Right, you could swap these guys out with anything, and it would be the same. The story would be exactly the same.
I like how at the end every single person in that stadium changes their mind about Rocky. And they're all rooting for him now, and then Rocky gives a I don't even know how to describe his speech at the end of the movie. It feels like just pure fence sitting in a way. Where it's just like, let's all be better people. Like, it's like, let's all just be good, you know, that kind of speech.
Yeah.
Where there's not really anything being said.
Right. I feel like First Blood Part 2 is so much more specific to, like, the time it came out and like, the historical events preceding it. Rocky 4 is just American boxer beat up Soviet boxer.
I will give the movie a compliment. I really like Hearts on Fire as a song, a training song. I think it sounds good. I think it belongs.
You showed me your, like, old YouTube series or whatever where you used Hearts on Fire.
Yes.
And I gotta say, like, that's a bit of a deep pull. I think most people would be more inclined to use, like, Eye of the Tiger or Gonna Fly Now.
I and those are good, but it's just like, I don't know, I feel like I like Hearts on Fire. I think it sounds nice. I think it's a good motivating song, you know? It's a good, like,
yeah,
it's good song to go for a jog listen to, you know? It's good. And I mean, Eye of the Tiger is great too. But yeah, it is overused. That's why I did it this year instead of back in 2013. Fucking Lost World. I don't know if you ever saw that one, but there was a full fucking Eye of the Tiger montage in one of those episodes.
I think I know what you're talking about. Do you have anything else about Rocky 4?
Not really.
All right. I believe you've got first vote then.
It's a tricky one this time, but I think I've made up my mind, and I feel like I'm even kind of taking a risk with this one because I normally win. I normally do pretty good with picking the movie that's actually going to win, whether it be through Matt's vote or the audience's vote. But I feel like you both might be against me on this one, and I'm not sure if that's true, but I have a feeling. Because I'm going to give it to Rocky 4, and it's almost entirely on a principle this time, because I think I think deep down I think Rambo 2 is a bit better made than this, but I also don't think it's like outrageous, like how in terms of how much better it's made. I don't think it's like a day and night comparison, and I'm really I don't think Rocky 1 loses anything from this movie existing. I think First Blood does kind of lose something from Rambo, like First Blood Part 2 again. Yeah, I'm with you on the fucking names. I think it does lose something from that just simply existing, because it's like, I kind of have to ignore that I feel like if I ever rewatch First Blood, which I definitely will, I need to ignore that the second one exists. There's a fucking Netflix show called End of the Fucking World, which is wonderful. And the season ends in a very tragic way for anyone who has seen it and knows what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. And it's like tragic, but so necessary. It's the point of the fucking story. And then they made a second season that retconned it, and it's like, that's a big pet peeve of mine. I really don't like it when shit does that. Especially when it involves, bringing a dead character back, which, in fucking Rambo, it's not like Rambo was dead, but he was, like, done. No. He did something he did something he shouldn't be able to come back from.
Yeah. Honestly, I was kind of thinking recently about, what other franchises have just, completely redefined themselves with a sequel. I do think the other big action series with terrible sequel titles, The Fast and the Furious, does this, because after Fast 5, all of the movies are just Fast 5 again. It starts out with them as, criminals. They're like a theft. They are thieves in the first few movies, and then by the fifth movie, they're the good guys, and that just sticks. As far as this vote goes, I'm with you. I'm voting Rocky 4. I just think it's the easier pill to swallow. I understand someone who would pick Rambo. I feel like if I wanted a Rambo movie, I wouldn't be disappointed with First Blood Part 2, where if I wanted a Rocky movie, I might be a little disappointed with Rocky 4 and how, silly and kind of thin it is. But, I don't know, it just feels... It's just the easier pill to swallow for me, frankly. They're both about equally entertaining. I enjoy them both pretty evenly, and Rocky 4 just makes more sense to me as a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm giving this one to Rocky 4. And, by a narrow margin, the audience is with us, actually.
Dang, okay, I was wrong about both of y'all.
It was 53 to 47. And, so that's pretty close. Granted, all of the comments are in support of Rocky 4, so we also got, a lot of votes on that one. That was 369 votes. That's more than we usually get.
Damn. Guess it's two movies that people probably know well.
Yeah. So, we gotta give this one to Rocky. Rocky 4 wins by a knockout. Alright. So next time on Hollow Victories, it's gonna be our 4th anniversary, and I have had the perfect matchup in mind for the last 4 years.
Oh no.
For our 4th anniversary, we are going to do our first, and probably last, 4-way matchup. And Michael, this matchup is gonna be fantastic.
God damn. I'm watching, this whole time, for the last 20 minutes, I've been staring at my YouTube subscriptions page, and the Fantastic Four 1994 YMS watch-along has been, right in front of my face. So I've been looking at the fucking Fantastic Four logo for, 20 minutes as if it's fucking fate that this was about to happen.
It's Roger Corman's semi-unreleased classic, the 90s Fantastic Four. The 2005 film Fantastic Four, its sequel, Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and of course, Josh Trank's infamous disaster, Fant4stick. we were talking about this the other day. We were joking around about it's fantastic. Oh wait, say that again. And you were even saying we could do Fant4stick on Hollow Victories, and I'm like, oh Michael, we're gonna do Fant4stick on Hollow Victories. Also, since it's our 49th episode, one of these is going to be our 100th movie. I guess Fant4stick, if it's the last one if we watch them in chronological order. Fant4stick will be the 100th movie on the show.
Is this including or excluding the unreleased episode?
Excluding the unreleased episode, although since it's 4 movies, technically it doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I know. I guess if we counted that one... No, you're right. Because next episode's 49, not this one. So, all right, there we go.
All right. So, fantastic four-way matchup. Next time on Hollow Victories. Anything else?
No, it'll be interesting.
All right, then for my co-host Makal Shadackle, I am Matt Presents. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace.